100 miles up the coast from downtown Los Angeles, NBA TV is on campus on the edge of the Pacific at the University of California, Santa Barbara, home of the Gauchos. It's where the Luke Walton era begins for the Lakers 5 years after wearing the purple and gold uniform as a player. He's now the organization's sixth head coach since last playing in LA. His roster highlighted with the last two #2 overall picks, Brandon Ingram and D'Angelo Russell, who certainly had a tumultuous rookie season and looking for brighter days ahead in his sophomore campaign. This is Real Training Camp, Los Angeles Lakers. Welcome on in, everybody. I'm Jared Greenberg. This is a great tie to the Laker organization, three-time champion Rick Fox. And Rick, we are 24 weeks since Kobe Bryant had that epic close to his career with that unbelievable 60-point performance. And it's weird, he's not here.
I'm still waiting for him to walk through that door over there. It is a new era. It is a new era. Now, Kobe did leave us with quite the memory in that last game, scoring 60 points, saying goodbye to Laker Nation, opening and ushering in a new era of basketball where youth will lead the way. They will have to find that leadership somewhere within this roster, and I think Coach Walton has some ideas where it may come from. But let me tell you, you replace a legend, the game doesn't get easier. I don't know who's going to drop 60 on this team next year if they need someone to drag them across the finish line like this man did for 20 years.
Yeah, Kobe, one of the certainly all-time greats, and in terms of Laker history, most games played, most points scored, most wins, second on the assist list, and of course in the NBA, he scored the third most points all time, and five-time champion is no longer with the organization. They move on. And now we look to start anew here with the Lakers, and over the next couple of hours. What's the vibe around D'Angelo Russell? And it's no secret, you know, the struggles with Byron Scott, the incident he had with Nick Young. What's the take on him?
Well, he was a 19-year-old rookie. Mm-hmm. So I can only give my take and my feelings towards him now. An opportunity for him to now step in and mature. This can be his team. If he finds his voice and he finds a leadership quality within him, which he had in college, to guide this group of men, some of them older than him, obviously, more experienced, yet at the point guard position, I think Luke is calling for him to step in there and take more responsibility as that guard. It can be his team now. I like the move. In these moments of training camp, you want to make sure no message is lost. Mm-hmm. And so in an ADD era, distractions can be good, but, hey, it worked in Golden State.
Well, with Golden State, Luke Walton got the opportunity to serve as the head coach for a period of time last year with Steve Kerr out and really proved his value. And that ultimately had to be what sealed the deal for the Lakers to feel good about bringing him back to the organization. But Luke saying that he's not telling stories of what happened the last couple of seasons with the Warriors when they went to back-to-back NBA Finals, winning a title 2 years ago, 73 games, a record with them winning in the regular season last year. Not talking about what happened with that team, but when specific examples of plays and how things get executed need to be brought up, Coach Walton hasn't shied away from telling players about that.
That's good. That's good because he'll tell those stories recently of those experiences. These players can relate to, I'm sure, a lot of the Golden State Warrior players because I'm sure they idolized them, looked up to them over the years, the last few years. But those stories, I think, will go even deeper into his days with Kobe because they have a connection. Obviously, some of these players have played with Kobe. What it meant to a fresh slate with a group of young men who can be molded and shaped into his liking. And if he can get them to understand the importance of both ends of the floor and how the game should be played, he has the championship caliber and experience both on the floor and from the bench. I think his voice will ring strong. Different than Byron Scott's.
How important is that?
That it's different or that it's fresh?
Both.
I guess they both are one and the same, right? In this case, the communication between the media and the players as of what's been different about this has been pointing towards the freedom from the past coaching staff along with the absence of one coach.
Luke Walton's the youngest head coach in the NBA, 36 years old. He's got one player on the roster that's older than him, the Metta World Peace, and one guy that's only a year and a half younger than him, than Jose Calderon.
Yeah, 35. Happy birthday Calderon the other day.
Younger coaches with this type of roster.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. I think the voice and the choice of Luke Walton as a younger player, 4 years out from his own playing days, stepping in to connect and maybe interact with these young talented players on a level that is easier for them to receive.
Well, Rick,
we'll find out here from Mr. Kupchak.
Yeah, your former boss, the man who made the decision to bring in Luke Walton, Mitch Kupchak, the general manager, joining us here on NBA TV's Real Training Camp Lakers show. Mitch, first and foremost, thanks for having us here. This is a really cool opportunity for our viewers to get a look inside of practice and listen to how different practice sounds now from it used to sound with the Lakers.
Yeah, it's different. We clearly have a lot of young players. Our core is a group of young players, and we have a completely new staff. There's a different feel to practice. You can hear the music. They just turned it down, but they play music very loud. There's a lot of energy in the building. We've added a couple of veterans for stability, hopefully, and some leadership in the locker room. So, we have a good mix of players. We need to show and make some progress this year in terms of wins, but there is a good energy, and our future, I believe, is in our young players.
I would agree with you in the future of the organization as those young players evolve into what you hope is stars in this league that can return the Lakers to the glory days. You brought in two veterans, as you mentioned, though. Timothy Mozgov, Luol Deng.
Decisions based on financial information, where they want to go, where they want to play, their chance to win right away. So it doesn't always go the way you want it to go. But yes, we have boxes we check out, and we're comfortable and happy with the players we got this summer. And another player you didn't mention is Jose Calderon. I think he's going to be a big part of our veteran in the locker room, and I think he has a couple of years left to play as well.
You speak of checking boxes, and you also brought in Luke, a new coach, a new coaching staff. What were those boxes for you when it came to making a shift from Byron Scott and heading in a new direction?
Well, Byron was dealt a very difficult, hand. Our team was kind of in a spot where, we couldn't progress and get better quickly. We've added some veterans, hoping that we can move the process along and get better quicker than you normally would. But it is a young group. And the one player I did mention was Brandon. I think he's going to be an excellent player. But you'll see, flashes of brilliance this year. But at 19 years old, it's just going to take some time. So that's my take on this, is just to build something that's going to have a lot of assets, that's sustainable going forward, and each year and each month of this season get better and better and better. How many games we're going to win, I don't know. This is a very competitive league. The West 2 years ago is different than the West today, and the West next year is going to be different than the West this year. So, we can't control all the variables when you're putting a team together. You may have a great team in the West and still not make the playoffs. So we can't control those things. So we're going to, control what we can, which is nurture our young players, make sure they get better, make sure they develop, and make sure that our veterans help us win some games and make progress as the years and as the season goes on.
Have you heard from Kobe? Is he going to stop by practice anytime soon?
Yes, we have an invitation out to him. He's busy. He and I text back and forth. I think the last time we communicated was last week, and we invited him out to a practice. And Rick, you may know more than me, but he's staying very busy. He's not the kind of guy, that takes a year off and does nothing.
No. Hey, Mitch, what is it about Kobe? I mean, we obviously said goodbye, and we're going to move on shortly here, but what do you think these young players are going to miss about him that they may not be aware that they're going to miss?
The last couple of years were very difficult for our team because they really didn't get Kobe like we know Kobe. The last 3 years he had a major injury, and of course last year was his retirement year. So they got to spend time with Kobe at the end of his career, and that's completely different than spending time with Kobe, as you know, at the beginning or at the middle. But just being around him, for the limited time that they were, his focus, his competitive nature, how hard he works, the different generation.
Well, let's take a look here. A lot of the focus the first 3 days, now day 4 of training camp, has been on defense, and it seems like nothing has changed. That seems to be the mantra for Luke Walton.
Yeah, a lot of talking at this time of year by teams and players and coaches, but it's the action that matters, and he's stressing defense, and we're seeing defense.
We showed the different rosters of the Golden State squad that Luke Walton had last year to this Laker team. Can Luke Walton just take the same philosophies and principles on both sides of the ball and apply them here? Is it that simple?
It is that simple. The execution is what matters, right? Players and personnel, talent levels and skill sets are all different throughout our league. But growth, when you have youth, if you train them correctly, as we see from the San Antonio Spurs history, they can take young players and really mold them into superstars. So the talent is here. Now it's just running through the paces, the repetition, the execution. If we think about the triangle offense, we've had this conversation over the years with it's not as easy to just plug in the triangle offense and have players execute it. What the Golden State Warriors do up north, I'm sure is a little more complicated than just rolling the ball out and letting the superstars get it done.
Well, among Luke Walton's coaching staff is Kobe. Not breaking news.
Kobe's here. There's a calm, there's a respect that comes from the opponent when a Kobe Bryant was on the floor. I'm excited to see, Luke Walton started as a defender coach as well. So Kobe Carl, who knows? Maybe he's starting his career in the Laker organization, and someday he'll be manning the sidelines as well.
It's one of many familiar names on this coaching staff that Luke Walton brought over. Brian Shaw left our studios at Turner and is now the associate head coach, former head coach of the Nuggets. And
a Gaucho at that. Gaucho at that. He went to school here. I mean, the halls are lined with memories of
I haven't seen one,
Brian
actually.
Shaw. You just didn't go down the right hall.
Oh.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what Timothy can bring to the Lakers in the paint.
Mark Madsen is also on this coaching staff.
Yes.
Judd Bushler with his days with the Bulls, so knowing the type of system that Phil Jackson taught Luke Walton.
There's a little Arizona tie there, too.
A lot of Arizona ties here.
Yeah, so Luke staying true to not only his pro roots, but his college days, as did Steve Kerr.
How much of an impact do these assistant coaches have here during training camp as Luke Walton tries to pretty much revamp everything that's done?
Well, I mean, their job is obviously, from a player development standpoint, not only to dive deeply into the growth of these players, these young players, but also to be an added voice at times when players tune out the head coach. Their support of Luke behind the scenes as Brian came over and what he had forgotten about his days as a coach, and he'd really only been out the game for a year, was how locked down in the bunker you get as an assistant coach, really preparing day in and day out for practices and game film and watching and scouting. And so there's so much work at play here for these assistant coaches, especially in supporting a new head coach, the youngest in the league.
Coming to you from the University of California, Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, as we mentioned, the greatest of them all. In his short tenure here, Brian Shaw.
How you doing, Jamal? Good to see you.
Mitch Kupchak joined us a little earlier on. Now we're going to bring in here, with the magic of live television, friend of the program, Jamal Wilkes, joins us very often here. And Jamal, obviously, one of the great Lakers, 3 titles in L.A.
They don't know a lot, and that they need to soak in and observe and as much as they can, particularly this week, because, as you know, once the exhibition and the game start, there's no time. So they have to realize the importance of this week and being here and giving all they have to Coach Luke Walton and what he's trying to implement.
Understand your son has been part of shaping this organization, working on Mitch Kupchak's staff. What has that been like for you to have your son now in the Laker organization? As you reflect back at now all the attention that's been put on the NBA this offseason with all these high-profile, high-priced moves, what do you reflect back on to your days of going down the coast?
Well, when I reflect, it was more of a mom-and-pop league then, and frankly, that's why I left Oakland, was that the owner just didn't have the wherewithal to keep me or a slew of other players. But I think now, since the game has grown so much, and interestingly enough, with social media, you don't have to be in LA or Chicago or New York. You know, you can be anywhere in the country. So
that's why you should get League Pass, right, Jamal?
Yeah.
Sell the company.
Yeah, I just got a notification. My charge went through, so I'm wired up.
I think you could reimburse that.
I hope so. You were a slim shooting forward. Give me your thoughts on Brandon Ingram.
Well, Luke Walton is now one of 30. The youngest head coach in the NBA, and let's take a listen in to his 4th training camp day here in Santa Barbara as the Lakers head coach.
Way to run, T-Black. Way to run, Larry. Yes, sir. Good work. We're doing a transition defensive drill. Be careful, explain it. Real quick, give me a purple team. Jose, Williams, Ingram, Nance, Mozgovs, Jacobs, and Zach, you guys come in on the bench for that team.
Give me 4 blues right here.
Give me a white team of D'Angelo, AB, Dang, Randall, Ian, Big Z.
In the three-point era, taking threes don't necessarily mean you make threes. And in the case of Byron Scott, maybe he knew something, because that shooting percentage there tells you maybe they should not have been shooting threes. But as we know, that's not the way the Warriors played. That's not the way the game is being played more and more by more teams. You have to be able to actually compete from behind the arc in some way. So I don't know where they find players that are going to actually shoot at a high clip, but maybe they're off-season, they worked on that, and we're going to see some of that in preseason.
Well, let's mention one of the more intriguing storylines here in camp. A guy fighting for a position, a guy who we wondered if he would make it to training camp, but indeed Nick Young is here. He also a very difficult 2015-2016 season with the Lakers. Nick Young is known as a three-point shooter for his career, about 37%, but last year 32% and averaged a career low 7 points a game.
Having a professional career and being a professional and delivering on your responsibilities is there, but now they live in an era where it's scrutinized at every turn with social media. So, look, what went down last season, or in every team, there were situations between players where things went down. This was obviously well documented between 2 of these players, but it's not new. It's not new in the game. It's not new that players make missteps, make mistakes, and it's not going to change. It's going to continue to move forward in this game. So I don't know how, to tell you the truth, I admire how any of them handle playing in this era. I don't know if I would have been able to survive.
Well, Nick Young saying that we have to put this behind us and go out there and do our job. And the question really, Rick, as we focus on basketball, is what Nick's role will be, because his position is very crowded. And, you know, as I mentioned, he's got this year and next year left on his contract. The Lakers have gone past the date in which they could utilize the stretch provision, which would give them some salary cap relief over the years.
Right.
So
he's
now,
got $11 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. So.
Right. Now you're looking at a situation of what you do with them, because you've obviously got Russell and Clarkson who are going to start in the backcourt, and you've got Lou Williams, and you wonder where he fits in here. And a guy when Luke Walton's preaching defense,
right.
Nick certainly hasn't been known as a defensive-minded player.
Well, his defense has been his offense. When he's going and he's streaky hot, you know, you got to pay attention to him, and therefore, you know, you're chasing the scoring. But look, if I'm Nick Young, even though I'm a Laker, I quite frankly have to look at this roster and say, hey, we won 17 games last year. Every position is crowded, because every position should be open. Yes, there's people making a lot of money in some of those positions, and maybe are more favorable in getting those minutes, but winning, you put winning people on the floor.
You know, I want the farewell gift that we gave Gary Vitti back, because the legendary Laker trainer said he retired. It was only a semi-retirement, and Gary now joins us here, is back with the Lakers in a different capacity than you have been in different years, but you couldn't stay away, huh? Does that mean Kobe's coming back next too?
Absolutely not.
You just sleptwalked.
Yeah, I mean, it was Kobe's swan song. Everything was directed that way, and as a result, it was probably most difficult on our young players because the way Kobe went out isn't really the way you want to bring young guys in. So it was sort of opposing forces, and we were trying to do everything we could to make it work.
What did work?
What did work?
Yeah.
Kobe
Don't look at the 17.
Okay. Kobe and I worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that was really good. I never saw Kobe in the 20 years that I worked with him so happy. And I think I feel that this franchise is special. Right? And you need to act that way on the court, off the court, play hard, you play to win. And that's the message that I left these young kids, and I think they received it well. We've had a nice spirited training camp so far.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they've been spirited.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know what they're doing out there, but they're spirited, which is a good start.
When you saw Luke Walton here wearing a jersey, did you have the feeling that one day he could be the head coach of this team?
I don't think you can force it. I think you have to do it the right way. And I think it's also unfair to compare him, when I look at him, to compare him to Kevin Durant. I liked looking at him more as Tayshaun Prince, who had a very slight body and had a very long and successful career.
I'm strong.
Hey, if Brandon needs 20 pounds, he can have 20 of mine.
You can have 20 of mine. Okay.
Gary, you want to go back and look at some old-time video?
Sure.
Wonder when the last time you saw this. Lakers in a few weeks are going to open up the season without Kobe Bryant for the first time.
And this is a guess. I'm guessing you probably need 45 wins to get into the 8th spot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to get at least 1 through 8 to get into the show, and then you go from there. So minimum 45 in the West is what my guess would be. But still, most people would think if you're in the 8th spot, you're not a contender. You just got into the first round. I don't know if it's ever been done. I don't think an 8th seed has ever.
In a lockout year.
Yeah.
Well, the Knicks got to the finals.
Yeah. 99.
So I'm not sure if that answered the question, but.
Yeah, no, I know. I only curious because you've seen all levels of especially this stage in the season. Everyone considers themselves a contender. Record 0-0. Everyone has high hopes. These are all professional athletes that have been worked off in the summers, working hard on their craft, and everyone thinks they have a chance to win a championship. We know that's a smaller group of guys than maybe the 30 that think they have a chance. You're at UCSB. You've been to Hawaii, Palm Springs for training camp.
Yeah.
Any particular preference? And how important is it to hit the road as a group in training camp?
Yeah, I'm probably not going to make very many friends with the answer to this question. I personally believe that we have this great facility and everything we need right in LA, and that's our home, and that's where we should be. I think some people feel that way. Some people feel the other way. There's this bonding concept. I don't know. Maybe I should ask you the question because you're the player. My experience with the players is that as soon as they're done here, they go to bed and they get some rest. It's not like they're out bonding together.
Right.
Okay?
No, if you're doing it right, you're sleeping.
Yeah. So I don't really buy in so much as that to that. I guess you can make an argument that there might be too many distractions at home. Family, friends, that kind of thing. So you go someplace remote. But I like being in our facility with our banners, with our trophies in the windows, with all the equipment that we need, and practice is right there, and there's a hotel right, through the back door, and you just you literally walk 50 feet, and you're in your hotel room. That's my philosophy, but I'm not high up enough the food chain to make these decisions.
And so much for retirement.
Okay. Yeah. This is pretty cool. I mean, let's call it semi-retirement, quasi-retirement.
Rick Fox, Jared Greenberg, we are live, University of California, Santa Barbara. Jordan Clarkson not only had a camera last night, he's wearing a microphone for us today during training camp.
Zone up. Zone up, zone up, zone up, zone up, zone up, zone up. Zone up, zone up. Zone up, stay high. I got here. Stay there, Stella. I'm down. Yup. No, sir. Get it, go. Let's go.
Where were you when I was in math class, man?
I definitely was not there. That's exactly.
I would have done so much better, man.
Rick Fox, Jared Greenberg, real training camp, Lakers, and Rick, you like the drill Luke Walton's running here. We see this a lot with the Cavs over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it looks like they're practicing creating pace, long full court passes, outlet passes to get easy baskets, which puts pressure on the defense. I think Luke is trying to find out who's actually going to get the green light to make these type of decisions on the fly. We've seen the Warrior players, and you mentioned the Cavs players connecting, using the full length of the pass. Kevin Love gets a lot of praise, LeBron James, for making those type of football-esque, quarterback-style plays.
There has to be the sense of urgency that you give up a basket and you're going to go right back down the court, catch them sleeping.
Yeah, a lot of teams, a lot of players in the league will celebrate or loaf back on defense after a score. You can catch them, put them on their heels, and neutralize the advantage that they just gained by scoring.
What are you seeing so far from Luke Walton?
The pronunciation of his players' names I thought was excellent out the gates. No, just a command, a confidence about what he's doing here. He's setting a foundation for his team by what they do in this training camp. And, Jamal spoke about this is a time for setting these young players on a course for the season that, as the season picks up, you don't have time to make as many adjustments as you would like. So over the course of this month and especially this week, his voice and his message and his game plan of how they will play, what's important to him and his coaching staff, has to reach these players now. And I've noticed him giving power to his assistant cases to have young players on your roster. But, getting a young player to a level to compete for championships is far and few. And it seems like the Golden State Warriors have stocked up on a good lot of those guys, and the rest of the league has to play catch-up and develop their talent.
How excited are you to see Durant in a Warrior jersey this Saturday night on NBA TV?
I see the promos we keep putting up, and it still takes a second each time I see it to remind myself that, yes, he has moved on. But eventually it'll be second nature to all of us as the Warriors move through the season. It is bringing a storyline, though, and an excitement to what will champions. The Cavs, if we're going to talk about anyone else, right? Got to pay them their due.
Well, do you think the Cavs still come in as your favorite to repeat?
I always give the defending champion, especially when the roster and the core is set with individuals like LeBron James and the greatest players in the history of the game. They have an opportunity to defend something that they have gone out and so remarkably well accomplished in being down 3-1. I'm sure the Warriors are hungry too, but right now the defending champions, the Cavaliers, have to be confident about their chances to repeat.
You asked Gary Vitti about competing. I'll throw it to you in terms of so much stock being put in the Warriors and the Cavs, rightfully so, obviously with Durant just adding to the slew of talent they have in the Bay Area. But how do the other teams approach the season when there seems to be such power at the top of each conference?
Well, I don't think you can really focus on those things at this point in the season. You focus on yourself, especially during the next month here. Each team is a new roster. Even the defending champion Cavaliers have a new roster. And so, you can't live in the past. You have to discover who you are in the present. And a lot of players go off in the offseason, improve their skills. They come back, they get realized, and then shoulder more responsibility. That is the foundation that each team should be laying right now. And then we start to see over the first 25 games how teams start to shake out. But I wouldn't focus on anything other than getting a true sense of who you are right now as a team and as players amongst yourselves.
Rick Box, Jared Greenberg, NBA TV brings you real training camp live with the Lakers in Santa Barbara, and got the last two number 2 overall draft picks on the Laker roster, and Brandon Ingram working a lot in the post here. And you hear a lot about comparisons. and I'm sure, as you know, it's got to be tough for these guys to live up to that. One of the things with Brandon, though, is just how much of a winner he's been, and trying to take that same mentality, winning 4 state titles in high school, really successful, relatively speaking, year in Duke, and now coming into this program here that's trying to rebuild. Any similarities with you and Boston when you entered the league, with how you had to approach?
Woo! Okay, sorry, I heard that question, but Nick Young's been put some people in the microwave over here. Talk about him. Where's his minutes at? When you got game, you got game. So he can score the basketball. But Brandon, any player that comes into our league, and I came in at 22. I didn't come in at 19. It is an adjustment. And I always say the first few years, very few guys can pull off what Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, the individuals that came in really, really young, and yet still were able to survive and take on huge responsibilities.
You like that he's coming off the bench to start?
Sure. Look, minutes are minutes, right? And he'll find more and more responsibility passed to him as the coaching staff discovers his strengths and where he can be successful and help this team. His patience, he just needs to be patient. That can be a short runway to the starting lineup or to huge minutes. And to me, it's always, are you finishing the game? Everyone gets hung up on, am I starting? It's like, are you finishing? You want to be on the floor in the fourth quarter when the game really matters. And it all 48 minutes matter, but when you really are making and needed to make plays to win games.
Do you think it's just a feeling out process for Luke Walton and the coaching staff, or they want to set a timetable with how they're going to utilize Ingram and Dang?
Yeah, I mean, this is a new roster for them and new players getting to know each other. The strengths and weaknesses individually can find in the scouting report, right? But when you put players together and lineups together, you start to see the benefit of how they make each other better, or unfortunately, in some cases, how they magnify the deficiencies in each other. So I think the patience in bringing Brandon along, and this might change. I guarantee you he'll get minutes in preseason where we see how he responds to a starting opportunity potentially. Veterans get to rest in preseason, which will force young players to show their wares earlier on, and I guarantee you the evaluation of his game is ongoing by the hour in this organization when it comes to how much responsibility to give him.
Well, same for Julius Randle, who is getting some work in right now as well. Randle, 7th pick back in 2014.
You got it. Look, weak. Go through. I'm in. Come here, AB. Let's try. AB. Oh, I'm through. Let's try. Come on. Let's go. Luau. Go, replace. Let's go. Come here, Luau. I'm back.
D'Angelo Russell wearing a mic for us today. Real training camp Lakers, Rick Fox, Jared Greenberg.
A couple things he can do. A, play well on the court, period. I was here in 2007 when Kobe Bryant demanded to be traded, and he was booed a few months later on opening night at Staples Center. A few months after that, they got Pau Gasol, and then a little bit after that, they were in the NBA Finals. And people forget about when Kobe wanted to be traded. If you play well, and if the team wins, these things are forgotten. I think D'Angelo Russell realizes that.
There you have it, Laker fans. Championship 2 years from now?
Yeah. Might take a little bit longer than that, right?
How long? When you look at this roster beyond D'Angelo, there's a lot of youth.
A lot.
Who has to come along with him?
Well, Julius Randle's got to continue to be that double-double kind of guy. And Brandon Ingram, he's not going to start the season. They're going to put Luol Deng in at small forward, which makes complete sense to me. Let the guy who's guarded KD, who's guarded LeBron, who's got, so many years of playoff experience, let him be the guy to start the season. And then maybe if they fall out of playoff contention, then you let Ingram start getting some starts, getting some quality time. And I think he'll get plenty of time off the bench. But the blueprint for the Lakers should be they're not going to make the playoffs this year, all right? Make it close, get up to like 10th in the West maybe. Next season, try to sneak into the playoffs, 6, 7, 8, something like that. And then a couple years from now, try to go into a season where you get a top 4 seeding in the West. So it's at least a 3-year plan in my mind before they start making big noise in the West.
Mike Bresnahan joining us with Rick Fox and Jared Greenberg. We talked at the beginning about how just surprising the vibe is around here. It's so optimistic, even after what's happened the last several years. And I just wonder, from your standpoint, I know it's a tough question to really give an exact answer to, but how much of it is a breath of fresh air with Kobe's farewell tour over with, Byron Scott's relationship with the players not being here, as much as it is Luke Walton coming in and installing this new system and attitude?
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's so many factors at play. I mean, Byron was definitely more of a tough love kind of guy. And Luke, he loves these guys. I mean, he plays the music that they want to play, which he imported from Golden State. He's pretty upfront about it. The players like listening to music before and after, and sometimes during practice, too. It's just so unusual from what I've experienced. Phil Jackson never did this. And Phil did fine, obviously. He did great as a coach. But it's a completely different mindset. Even Mitch Kupchak, the Laker GM the other day, he said, yeah, it's taken a little getting used to. Sometimes I have to, close the door in my office because the music is so loud down below as he's overlooking the practice court where he sits up there. So it's definitely a different, use breath of fresh air. That makes sense to me. As far as Kobe, all right, this is a guy who last season his skills obviously were not what they were a couple of years before that. He was taking 18 to 20 shots a game and only shooting about 35%. And I think, you got to give him his due. All right, it's his last year. Let him do what he wants. But I think the players started to feel like, man, I'm not touching the ball on offense. And I think maybe that reflected a little bit defensively as well. And it was just a very erratic year. Kobe rarely practiced. I think that definitely affected the team.
What makes this a successful season for this team?
That's a really good question. Last season, they lost a record for the Lakers, 65 games. All right, you obviously don't want to go near that again. Not that they're going to win 40 games or anything like that, but they need to win in the high 20s, maybe sneak into the 30s. They were so non-competitive last season. More than 2/3 of their losses were double digits. Just not real exciting, not real competitive. The young guys need to step up, and the vets need to make these games more exciting. Even if they're losing, make it more last-second losses or last minute or 2 losses, not these blowouts from the third quarter onward.
How important, Mike, do you think is player development at a rapid pace this year to start to make some moves before the trade deadline due to the lack of success this organization's had in the free agent market the last several summers?
It's a really good question. Again, you guys are good. They have not done well.
One of us gets paid. That guy.
They have not done well, obviously, in the free agent market. So maybe the trade factor does become more important once February rolls around, because who knows how they're going to do next February. I know they were targeting Russell Westbrook next year, and that's not going to happen next summer. Obviously, he wrapped up another year with Oklahoma City. So maybe the trade possibility does become more important for this franchise. Let's not forget they acquired Pau Gasol from Memphis in the biggest trade maybe in the Lakers' last 20 years or so. That was a big deal for them, and maybe they can replicate that once February starts to roll around again.
Do you think that that's the direction the organization wants to go? Of course, and we talked about it with Mitch Kupchak, the promise that was put out by Jim Buss has been well documented.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jim said 3 to 4 years. This is entering 3 years, third year, where if it's not going to work, he said he would step down. And he's still going to own the team, but he would put aside his VP of player personnel hat. And I don't think they want a quick fix. I really think they want to see what the kids can do. They want to build this team around those guys. But if it's not happening in February, maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to be packaged for a more veteran player.
Wow.
Yeah. It would be giving up a little bit, but who knows what's out there. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, how happy is he right now?
I know what's out there as it pertains to some of the other teams.
Yeah.
And I don't see those teams getting any worse. I mean, they're young teams. I mean, the Warriors are young. The Spurs are young. The West in general is pretty young and pretty good. So I think you have to either stay committed to this youth and grow them to the level that we've seen some of the young teams in the West grow to, which are championship contending teams. But to shift on the fly now after being so patient for the last 2 years, it would be, I think, a panic.
Yeah, I think they're committed to it. 6 months from now, let's see who's really on the market. Let's see if there's any all-star centers bouncing around there who want to change a venue. And maybe the Lakers will have to package 1 or more of these young guys.
It's just not it's just so not easy to put together 12 guys and instantly think you're going to contend. They have to discover who they are. They need a training camp. You can't do that in the middle of the season. That's why a lot of those trades don't end up really paying the dividends you think they're going to in the middle of a season.
You know, Rick, one of the best things that happened to this franchise in the last 10 years was the acquisition of Pau Gasol. One of the worst things that happened to this franchise in the last 10 years was the acquisition of Pau, because now Laker fans think, oh, we'll go out and get this guy. We'll go out and get that guy. It just doesn't happen like that. That was a once, I'm not going to say in a generation deal, but definitely a once in a decade kind of situation.
That was a Jerry West. I mean, that was, you got Shaq, he pulled it off with Shaq, too.
Yeah, so it happens.
It happens.
Every 10 years or so.
Mitch is capable of something like that.
Yeah, it may be, but Laker fans are almost unfairly, I think, expecting some magic wand to be waved, and here comes DeMarcus Cousins or this guy or that guy.
We're spoiled from an era of really players wanting to be Lakers.
Yeah, I agree.
And now they've shied away from the pressure.
Yeah, and you could argue that they gave Mozgov 4 years and they gave Luol Deng 4 years because maybe they felt they had to.
Oh, they pulled the trigger quick.
Yeah,
yes.
You know, to make sure these guys would indeed come on board.
Yeah.
And they also gave Jordan Clarkson 4 years. That one, you know, he's a young guy. He's averaging about 15.5 points.
You'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that's he was a young guy to build around. But I think they had to tack on an extra year to the vets, maybe even 2 years, to make sure they come out here to L.A.
Well, Mike, we look forward to seeing you in your new role, moving over from the LA Times to Spectrum Sportsnet. We'll see you in the studio this year a whole lot.
Sounds good.
We look forward to you joining us as well here. Mike Bresnahan, covered the Lakers for a long time. Great insight there.
Oh, thanks, guys.
A lot of different guys, but a lot of guys that actually like to help. A lot of the veterans giving teaching points. And just knowing that this season is going to be a different season. New coach and new playing style. So what I see so far, I like.
Brandon, we wish you the best of luck. Thanks so much for joining practice here today.
With this young man, well, I saw what everyone is touting. The comparisons to the excellent players in our game that he has the opportunity to grow to. Runs the floor, plays the defense that Luke Walton has pointed out. He's long. I'm not concerned about his weight. I just saw him go to work in the post. Saw him take the ball off the dribble on the wing and pull up and hit shots. And I think in the competitive atmosphere that Luke is demanding day in and day out in competition and keeping score and track of everything, he was one of the last guys in the drill. So I think he did fairly well in holding his own.
Well, the man that Brandon Ingram's going to back up for the time being is Luol Deng, who's signed here with the Lakers in the offseason. Rick Fox, a three-time NBA champion here with the Lakers. And you've picked some pretty good cities to play in lately, huh? Miami, L.A., not bad.
No, I've been very blessed. I'm excited.
What are you seeing here from Brandon and him accepting this role of becoming your backup essentially to start?
No, Brandon is for a 19-year-old just take basketball. They start to realize that this is what this league is about, and they pick up this habit from an early age. If you come into the league and you're not in necessarily a great situation, I think you pick up bad habits. So it's really important for us guys, the older guys that have been in the league for a while, to let these guys know and let them see why we're still in the league and why we're still doing well.
Well, you've played with some really talented point guards early in their career, Derrick Rose.
To me, it's how hard we play every night, and do we play together every night? For now, for setting the foundation, are we going to play an unselfish brand of basketball, and are we going to compete when we step on the court, offensively, defensively? And if we do that, and we can do that, it's like anything else, Rick. It's building habits in practice. So are we doing that each day in practice? Get it to carry over to the games, and I think if we can put that into the DNA of who we are, we'll be on a good track.
Well, when that doesn't result in wins, how difficult is it to sell that message to young players who are traditionally coming from programs where all they knew was winning?
Hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully it will turn into wins.
Yeah. Played with other great players, but what is different about these players than the era that we came from?
From my experience, I think with this new generation, there's just a different approach that works as far as getting them to respond. And it's obviously it's case by case. You don't just have a blanket way of treating everybody on your team. You get to know the guys. You know what motivates them, what pisses them off, and you use that, to bring out the best, to challenge them. I think, the older generations, in the way, to motivate us a lot of times was to yell at us or to, You just no conversation really. Just this is what we're doing, and the end of it, do it this way or you don't play. And I think with the younger generation, they respond more to an open communication where they can give you their opinions and their views. And I think if you embrace that and you actually listen to them, a lot of times they have great ideas. I mean,
good. Get in the eye, get in the eye. Good, D'Angelo. Keep playing, keep playing. Hey, when we give him the ball, you're taking an angle to the rim. He's got to hit you in stride to lay it up.
Oh.
I mean, what are we?
Is he out?
Luke Walton wearing a mic for us. Now wrapping up practice here, day 4 of training camp in Santa Barbara. Rick Fox, a 3-time champ with the Lakers. We're going to speak to Luke and some of his players right here on the set as Real Training Camp Lakers rolls on NBA TV.
You cannot be a contender unless you do those things.
All right, thanks to our producer, Tom Strong Island Heights. Stephen Lindsay on the controls with Lee Mayberry, the associate director. Our production assistant, Garrett Cool Beans Sims. That'll do it from Santa Barbara. Tune in to NBA TV Saturday at 7 Eastern for Kevin Durant's first game as a Warrior as Golden State takes on Toronto. For our great NBA TV crew and Rick Fox, I'm Jared Greenberg. And thanks to the Lakers for having us in Santa Barbara.